All right. So, since yesterday was a full-on rest day, I don't know, maybe the day before? Well, I don't know. Either way, every time I have a rest day, it sort of throws off the daily upload because then there was no lift the day before, but whatever. So, cardio complete. Did an hour this morning, went a little extra crazy. 30 minutes on the seated bike, followed by 30 on the treadmill. And then now, meal number one. I'm talking, I forget exactly how many ounces of ham. Probably four-ish. It's like just a pack of 4 slices with 8 servings, so 25 grams of protein there, followed by half a carton of kind of just an egg white mix, or not even egg white mix, just straight up egg whites. 56, which is exactly 2 servings of fat-free cheese. So sear the ham first, add the eggs, then once that little mix is kind of fully solidified, then melt the cheese in, quick couple of stirs, pour it in a bowl, you're left with yay. Which frankly tastes much better than it looks. It's a little I mean, some might go so far as to say it might be a little dog foodish, but it is actually I forget exactly how many. So 60, 10, I mean, just about 400 calories for a very filling sort of bowl. That's what I'm aiming for, you know? So it's what really kind of gets me too. And this is just about like meals in general anyway, not even about bodybuilding or whatever, is our classic kind of conjecture of like normalcy when it comes to food really throws off anybody's approach to getting into dieting. Because if you take somebody, the uninitiated to working out or bodybuilding or whatever, and you tell them, okay, I'm going to start going on a muscle building diet, right? The first thing somebody's going to say who isn't interested in bodybuilding at all, the first thing they're going to think is, well, meathead guy walking around eating chicken and rice or cracking open a Tupperware and stinking up the office with like canned tuna and, whatever else. Or you're thinking of that clip in Rocky where he cracks 4 eggs into a cup and slams them, which, frankly, if you're willing to go that far, I think we've all been there. Everybody's gone through their drinking the egg whites arc, hopefully. But that's assumed, like, oh, that's what you have to do. That's what all these crazy lunkheads are doing. I'm gonna go back to my regular healthy meals. These guys are eating so strangely, like they're oh yeah, the classic argument. Oh, well, you're tracking every calorie you eat. Sounds like you have an eating disorder. And then of course the opposite argument of the lifter. They're gonna say, well, actually, our eating is very orderly. Yours is the one that's a disorder. But that's not what I'm trying to get into here. But I mean, what do we think of classic breakfast? I'm talking slices of toast, freaking pancakes, bacon, 3 eggs, if that. Some guys are just doing a damn bowl of cereal, which nothing too wrong there. I mean, especially coming from me. But, carb heavy meals, like even when I'm bulking up, a good chunk of every meal is still protein centered. Sometimes I get kind of curious how some people are even alive with regularly, or at least somewhat regularly operating like pituitary glands or whatever. Because if your breakfast is like an extra large Starbucks Frappuccino and it's got 80 grams of sugar in it, and that's like meal number one straight to your dome, and like this person isn't about to do an hour of like strenuous kind of exercise where they're just using that glycogen as fuel, like it's just kind of crazy. But what I'm really trying to say here is don't get too freaked out if you start eating foods that might seem a little bit weird. And not weird like tasting, like eating this is just tastes like normal freaking eggs or whatever. And honestly, this is a pretty tame meal. But who I'm kind of targeting that at is guys where I see the comments. It's like, how can I track my protein? How can I track my calories if I'm eating my mom's cooking all the time? If she's making all the food, I don't know how to track these calories. Like, what am I supposed to do? Ask her to count the macros? Ask her to count how many whatever? Which, honestly, she probably would do. Like, if she makes a lasagna, you could just ask her how many... just ask her what the ingredients are and then look it up. It's not a question of, oh, it's impossible to track these calories. It's a chore, but it's not impossible. But what I'm trying to say there is, like, if you're in a non-lifter, like dieting sort of household, and then you start getting kind of funky with it, You know, I mean, as soon as you bust out 3 tins of sardines into a bowl and start scooping at it like it's a, well, like there's nothing wrong with that. You know, you might get some weird looks from your brother, your sister, your parents, or whatever. And to that, I would say, if you want to look freaky or get freaky results, you got to do some freaky shit sometimes, you know. But what I'm sort of what I'm trying to emphasize is macros are typically going to come first, at least, especially in a dieting down fat loss context. Because if I were to just eat like a regular dude, and by that I just mean like eat what I want to eat normally, like if I were to completely stop limiting my calorie intake and just say, oh, I'm going to eat what I'm hungry for or whatever, the fat loss immediately going to stop. I'm going to rebound back up to a regular kind of body weight, and then that'll be the end of it, you know? So it's like, it's an action which is going to require some pretty intentional effort consistently. And by that, I mean like 99% of the time or 95% of the time, consistently, if you want to make noticeable changes. And I said this a couple days ago in the car, it's so slow. Like any progression when it comes to changing your body's composition is going to take weeks, months, years even, depending on what you're really aiming for. But in terms of actually noticing any changes go by, you're not going to see it. You know, we've all kind of heard the phrase, like, you're not going to be any bigger from one workout. You're not going to be any leaner from one cardio session. It's just not, it's not the nature of things. It has to add up and accrue over time before you start to notice, you know, anything serious, right? I mean, if you see a drip coming from the ceiling, you know, 2 drops of water, who cares? If you spill that on the floor right now, it wouldn't matter. But if it kept dripping and kept dripping and kept dripping, holy crap, man, you got a freaking flood. You know, so over time, those things will start to kind of add up, and in both a positive and negative way. So you know, that's where it's kind of on you to hold yourself accountable, because if you don't consistently put it in and, you know, keep yourself in the green of like, I'm 1% this, I'm 0.01% more, whatever, you know, and kind of pushing yourself towards making sure that whatever goals you're aiming for, you're actually putting in the work towards, then, you know, before you know it, you're going to be the opposite situation where every day you're getting, you know, 1% worse. You're putting on body fat, you're losing muscle. I mean, that's a damn nightmare, right? That's the complete opposite of what we're all kind of aiming for. But all that's to say, I would download a macro tracker as soon as possible if you don't already have one, and then just go from there, man. You know, read the nutrition label on some kind of something you're eating, plug in the values. Don't even hold yourself to like, I'm going to stick to this limit. Don't. That's not step one of macro tracking. I would say just pick a day, everything you eat, try to plug it in and track it. Don't worry about what that end number ends up being. Just get yourself into a habit of doing that. And before you know it, you're going to be sitting in front of the same damn bowl as me, eating 60 grams of protein, 10 grams of fats, and 10-ish grams of carbs or something like that. So, you know, whether that's what you're actually aiming for, that's not my problem. You know, that's kind of up to you. But I'm going to sit here and grub, and then I've got a lift later on. Not exactly sure what it's going to be. Either legs, or I save legs for tomorrow and do some shoulder kind of accessory work tonight. Well, I guess you'll find out tomorrow.